So, if you've ever watched a controlled demolition of a massive building, there's always that really eerie moment right before the collapse.
Oh yeah, like when they implode those old Vegas casinos.
Exactly. Yeah. The explosives have been detonated. You hear the rolling thunder of the blast, but for a fraction of a second the building just stands there.
Right, like nothing even happened.
Right. It looks completely intact, but the structural integrity is already gone. The load-bearing walls have been shattered, and it's really just a matter of gravity and time before the whole thing comes down in this huge cloud of dust.
It's a great visual, honestly.
Yeah, and today's source material argues that human pride and the false systems we build to protect ourselves, well, they work the exact same way.
They absolutely do.
We're looking at a stack of notes based on Lee Carl's Bible study writings, specifically an analysis of the ancient text of Ezekiel 6. The piece is titled The Sovereignty of Recognition in Ezekiel 6. Okay, let's unpack this because
Yeah, it's a heavy title.
it is, right, because on the surface, it looks like just pure ancient history, a prophet delivering a really harsh message to Israel. But this text serves as a powerful psychological and spiritual blueprint for how the false systems that you and I trust today are dismantled.
Right, and what's really the core, like the beating heart of Ezekiel 6, is this repeated phrase. It's the engine for the whole process.
Which phrase is that?
It's, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. That is the narrative through line for the listener here.
Okay.
In both ancient history and our modern lives, the dismantling of what we rely on, it's never about blind, angry destruction.
It feels like it sometimes, though.
Oh, totally. It feels awful.
Yeah.
But it's entirely about recognition. It's about clearing away the debris so the truth can actually be seen.
So to understand that journey toward recognition, the notes say we first have to identify where we are building these false senses of security in the first place.
Yeah, we have to find the geography.
The geography of pride, right. The notes point out the historical context here. God actually instructs the prophet to bypass the people and speak directly to the physical landscape.
Which is such a strange instruction when you think about it.
It really is. He says to prophesy to the mountains, the hills, the valleys, and the rivers. Because historically, those were the literal, the high places where idolatry and covenant betrayal happened.
Right, but what's fascinating here is how the author translates that ancient geography into our spiritual geography today.
Like our internal landscape.
Exactly. The physical landscape is basically a mirror. So when the text targets the mountains, it's targeting our elevated social positions, our internal pride.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, human beings have this innate drive to construct something high and untouchable. We want to stand on top of these supposedly infallible systems,
Like climbing the corporate ladder.
Exactly. A career, a financial portfolio, a really pristine personal brand. And we stand up there and declare, I am safe here. Nothing can touch me.
We really do treat those mountains like they are permanent. But I was thinking about this. It's like over-engineering a bridge to withstand a hurricane while completely ignoring the fact that salt water is slowly rusting the rebar from the inside.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy. Yes.
Right. The outward brand is pristine. You put in the 80-hour work weeks to build this fortress, but the internal load-bearing capacity is just, wow, it's completely hollowed out.
Yeah, and God targets these proud constructs, these mountains, to prove that nothing temporal can actually sit above him. Nothing temporal can bear the weight of your ultimate security.
Right. But it's not just the mountains, is it?
No, and this is where it gets really convicting. God specifically addresses the valleys and the rivers too, those low hidden places.
Which kind of represent what? Comfort.
Exactly. The arrogance of comfort. When you're tucked away in a valley, you feel insulated. You don't feel vulnerable.
You feel safe.
Right, but you develop a massive blind spot. You don't see the flood coming until it's literally washing your foundation away. You don't have to be standing on a mountaintop demanding everyone look at your success to be consumed by pride. You just have to believe that your carefully curated, comfortable little ecosystem is all you'll ever need.
That hits close to home. So since these mountains and valleys we build are fundamentally unstable, what does it look like when reality finally hits and they collapse?
Well, the architecture of that collapse is pretty brutal.
Yeah. Moving into verses 5 through 7, the source notes point out some really striking On honestly graphic imagery, the text declares that the fallen will be intentionally placed around the very altars they trusted in.
Right, right, right.
Like, the false sanctuaries are laid waste and the slain are left right in the midst of their broken idols.
It's intense.
It is. And I have to push back here a little bit. Doesn't this seem incredibly severe? I mean, why leave the fallen around their own ruined altars? That feels almost vindictive.
It definitely reads that way at first glance, but the analysis explains that this visual contrast is highly, highly intentional. Because God knows our human capacity for denial. It is the only way to expose the absolute futility of a false refuge.
Oh, I see.
If you build an altar to your own success or your intellect, and it completely fails to save you when a crisis hits, being left in the ruins of that specific altar is the ultimate proof of its emptiness.
There's no denying it then.
Exactly. The illusion has to be shattered completely, so it cannot be rebuilt. The expert notes reference Isaiah 28:17 here, pointing out that true judgment just measures reality accurately.
It just tells the truth about the situation.
Yes, and there's this profound quote included from the theologian Matthew Henry. He says that superstitions trusted for safety often become the very agents of ruin.
Superstitions trusted for safety become the agents of ruin. That is so good.
Isn't it? It's not vindictive, it's just the natural consequence of trusting an illusion.
Yeah, like in a modern context, that superstition is the belief that if you just project a flawless, emotionally detached image to the world, you won't ever get hurt. But the irony is that very superstition isolates you. The loneliness becomes the agent of your ruin. The exact mechanism of your protection becomes the mechanism of your destruction.
Exactly. And that leads to this really profound dichotomy for the listener. What actually replaces these broken images and wasted sanctuaries?
Right, what's left?
The Word and the Spirit. And the source presents this dichotomy.
Mm.
Our behavior is usually commanded by cultural sayings or internal lies we've just repeated for decades.
Yeah, things we just accept as true.
Right. And if you insist on clinging to those lies while reality dismantles them, it feels like absolute loss. It is agonizing.
What if you let go?
If you yield to the collapse, if you recognize that the load-bearing wall was rotten anyway, yielding to it actually feels like mercy. It is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes.
Wow. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If yielding to this collapse is an act of mercy, we have to look closely at the people who actually survived the dismantling.
A remnant.
The remnant, right. Verses 8 through 10, the author of the study, Lee Carl, includes a sanitized personal reflection right here in the notes.
Which is great, brings it right into lived experience.
Yeah, they describe a season where a deeply rooted misconception they held about themselves, a belief that was anchored entirely in insecurity, was finally overthrown.
And the way it was overthrown is the key.
Right. It wasn't through circumstantial wrath or some brutal punishment. It was quietly dismantled by his voice-affirming covenant belonging.
That is so crucial. The expert analysis connects this deeply personal moment to the historical scattering of Israel. Even in the midst of sweeping judgment, God preserves a remnant as evidence of mercy.
Just like he preserved the author through that insecurity.
Exactly. The fortress of insecurity was built to keep out rejection. But when unconditional acceptance breached the wall just became obsolete. It didn't need to be sieged. It just collapsed from a lack of purpose.
That makes so much sense. And the text says this remnant remembers. They recognize their own rebellion, and they actually come to loathe the things that once controlled them.
Right, that shift from desire to disgust.
Like waking up from a toxic relationship, you look back and disgust just replaces the desire. You realize you were starving yourself.
And that is the anatomy of true repentance. The source emphasizes that this turning point, this realization, it grants God glory.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to get a person to snap out of deception, to remember the truth, and turn away from what harms them, that should be recognized as a profound blessing.
So because the ultimate goal is this merciful restoration, the delivery of the warning, like the way God tries to wake us up, it can't be subtle, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Human apathy is a really thick shell.
Yeah. So moving into verses 11 through 14, the text details this animated warning. God commands the prophet Ezekiel to be violently physical in his delivery.
Right. He tells him to strike with his hand and stamp with his foot.
Which is crazy to picture. Like, be animated, be visible, be embodied, express it. This is no mild message.
No, the prophet has to physically embody an urgency that the people themselves are completely lacking. And that physicality mirrors the physical reality of the three consequences that follow.
Okay, let's break down those three consequences. What are they?
The text outlines three specific forms: pestilence, the sword, and famine. And the notes provide the spiritual parallels for each, which is super helpful.
Let's start with the first one, pestilence. The text associates this with those who are far off.
Right. Historically, this meant a literal creeping disease. But spiritually, the author defines this as persistent, unexplained afflictions.
Like a chronic fatigue of the soul.
Yes, exactly. It is the prolonged unrest that awaits us when apathy has ruled our lives for too long.
Wow.
It's like a low-level hum of anxiety that never quite goes away. When you're far off from the truth, God allows a persistent spiritual unrest to keep you from falling asleep permanently.
It's like a merciful irritant.
A merciful irritant, I love that, yes.
Okay, what about the second consequence? The sword. This is for those who are near.
Right, the sword represents direct correction.
The source frames this almost as a position of privilege, which, sounds a little counterintuitive to me.
Well, it's a privilege because it requires responsiveness.
Yeah.
Spiritually, God's word functions as the sword. It's a sharp cut meant to, like, remove a tumor.
Oh, surgical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you are near, meaning your conscience is still sensitive, you can be corrected by the precise slice of the word before that creeping rot of the pestilence takes over. It's painful, but it's fast.
Okay, that makes sense. But then we have the third consequence, which is where it gets really grim, famine.
Yeah.
This is aimed at those remaining, the people who are neutral. They aren't far off, they aren't near, they're just sitting on the fence.
Trying to avoid both the sword and the pestilence.
Right. So what does this all mean? Is sitting on the fence, that famine state of neutrality, is it just as dangerous as being on the wrong side of the sword? Does it really lead to spiritual starvation?
The expert conclusion confirms exactly that. We require truth and connection to sustain our internal lives. If you just sit on the fence, perpetually avoiding the pain of correction, you stop processing new inputs.
You just numb out.
You completely numb out. You aren't actually safe in that neutral zone. You are starving. Souls wither because they refuse to participate in the necessary pain of dismantling their illusions.
Wow. And the notes tie this entire framework back to the revelation of God as a father.
Right, because a good father comforts, sure, but a good father also has to correct.
Yeah.
Love is not passive. It doesn't just watch a child build a house out of toxic materials and politely suggest they reconsider. Love acts decisively for restoration. The severity of the demolition matches the danger of the illusion.
That is so powerful. To summarize this whole journey for you listening, whether we are examining the historical scattered people of Israel or our own internal spiritual lives, this deep dive reveals a really comforting truth.
Yeah, it really does.
Destruction is never the end goal. Desolation is merely the plow that leaves understanding in its wake. To know him rightly is, in itself, the ultimate blessing.
And to leave you with a final, lingering thought that builds on this source material. Consider the mountains in your own life right now.
Yeah, think about them.
Those systems, the reputations, or those beliefs that you just assume are permanent load-bearing walls. If they were suddenly dismantled tomorrow, would you find yourself spiritually starved in the famine of neutrality, just clinging to the rubble? Or would you finally have the unobstructed view required to see what is actually holding you up?
Wow. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning your high places, and we will catch you next time.